It's a great honor and a pleasure to have a general from the French army, General Tramond, who in the course of his career has been posted many times and has a vast experience in Africa and especially in the Sahel region. Now in the Sahel region we have a situation and there is a conflict going on which doesn't receive I believe, the coverage it deserves. I mean, compared with other conflicts, compared what happens in Libya or Syria or other places in the world, we don't hear much about the Sahel, but it's a vast, a huge area comprising of 5 countries, millions of people. It's an area bigger than Europe itself. And we have European forces fighting over there or helping the local forces to give the fight. And there have been many comments. I mean, Borrell said that Sahel is not something that is about France. It's something that concerns the whole of Europe. So, Olivier, I would like to ask you straight, since we're on a tight schedule and don't have much time, why it is so important, Sahel, for Europe? Please.
Thank you, Admiral. Thank you, Alexandros. The first point you mentioned is that everything is related. And last week I had a very interesting meeting with the top Moroccan think tank. Morocco is very aware of African affairs. And they told us this area will become the 3rd center of gravity of international jihadism after Afghanistan and after the Middle East. So it's a very concerning question. You mentioned the troubles in Libya, and everything is related because we have 2 pivotal states in that area that are Libya and Chad, and everything that is happening is related to these 2 countries. You know, Napoleon said geography commons, and we must speak a little bit about geography before beginning. It's a huge area. It's a strip from the Atlantic Ocean, from Mauritania to the Sudan, very long strip. A lot of population for the 5 countries of the G5. We are dealing about, there are 100 million population. And of course, France has responsibilities in this area as a former colonial power. And also because we have interest, because these countries speak French, and also because we have the sense of responsibilities, and we have responsibilities in that area. And to reply your question, it's very important to have an international mobilization to deal with that question because the threats are coming. The threats are rising. There are military threats with the jihadist groups. We have the migration. A lot of people are trying to join Europe by these corridors. And we have also economic issue, demographic issue, climate issue. And for Europe, I think it's a key point. As you mentioned, Alexandros, the spots are not on that crisis because France tried to manage it by its own means, but the solution is collective. And it's the message I want to give today. We need a collective effort. And as you mentioned, Mr. Borrell told it's a European question. And the title of our session is the forward defense. It's not a big strategy to tell that we must deal with the problem from afar and not when they are at home. So we have a collective interest to react.
Okay, it's very interesting, and I agree with the Moroccans. It seems that ISIS now, they don't have another center of power where they can locate, and they're moving towards Sahel, where it is the huge and lawless areas where they can establish themselves. And that's very important for us. I agree with you. I agree completely with the reading of the situation. But, and you know, Greece has started, although Greece has its own problems in the Eastern Mediterranean, as is well known, but we have started to focus a little bit on the Sahel. So there is a conversation going on, I mean, on the highest level, about Greek participation in Operation Takuba. I don't know what, but maybe we're going to send some people over there. And I know that they have appointed our ambassador in Senegal as special representative for the Greek government, the Greek Ministry of Foreign Affairs, for the Sahel. But it seems to me, as it happens with many other conflicts, where Western armies are involved with different regions in the world, I mean, namely Afghanistan or other places who have seen that many times before, that the European forces over there, led by France, they are winning all the fights, but they are losing the war. So can you tell us a little bit about what is the situation over there, and whether, I mean, the Moroccans, okay, they made this comment and they were right, but how is the African Union participating, or the local armed forces? Are they capable of doing the fight? Yes. Please.
Thank you, Alexandros. This is the key question, because France is here to help. You know, in 2013, when the jihadists tried to seize Bamako, it was kind of red. The Malian president asked the French president, it was President Hollande, to help. And there is a military agreement between several countries and France. And we did the job very quickly, thanks to our pre-positioned forces. We have bases on several places, and including special forces. So we have stopped the attack, and I can say you that if the jihadists had seized the capital city of Bamako, taking their own words, it would be the doors of hell open. It's very difficult to erase terrorists from a big city. So it has been done very quickly, and at the very beginning it was kind of bilateral operation, the French and the Malians. And very quickly, this war was with Africans, two ways, combat operations. So every line of effort that has been seized by the French, for example, the Niger bent, right after, Malian and Chadian forces and African forces came, and the French can relaunch the operation. So it was Franco-African forces. The second step, it was in 2014, we decided to have a global, regional approach. And this is, for the French, the new operation, which name is Barkhane, including all that area from Chad to the Atlantic. And the headquarters is in N'Djamena, capital city of the Chad. And the creation of the G5 Sahel, the French helping Africans to take their own destiny and forces. And the third step is the internationalization of the conflict with UN forces. There is a huge amount of forces, and also with European forces. So the solution is not military, as you told. We are winning the tactical war because the results are very good against the jihadists. And the risk is to lose the global thing, and we need more diplomatic, politic, and development efforts. We must not forget that the target is the population.
Παρακαλώ, δεν μπορούμε να κάνουμε τη συνομιλία.
And the target is the population.
Παρακαλώ.
Yeah. And we must help the population to find peace. And this is not only, as always, the military thing that will do that, but it's very important. You cannot have development without security, and this is the mission of the military. And for the collective approach, you mentioned the possible Greece involvement, Greek involvement.
Yes, which other countries are participating? Can you?
Yes, so the three levels are France and the Africans, the G5 Sahel, Mauritania, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Chad. This is the local. After we have the MINUSMA, this is the United Nations forces. It's a big force. It's 3 times bigger than the French operation. And a lot of countries are involved. And the European missions, we have one in Mali to help the local military, and one which is EUTM for the formation, the preparation of the local forces. So this is for education. But the main issue is political. How can we rule a country with corruption, with bad representation? So it's a big dilemma for the military. We cannot deal everything. We deal with the security, And there are political efforts and diplomatic efforts to build real states, because they are failed states.
Yes, and of course we have the European Union there with the train and equip and the United Nations. But as far as I know, in the Operation Takuba, we have forces from the Baltic states and the Scandinavians and the Eastern Europeans. So now we start to generate a real European force. It's something like...
So you mentioned President Borrell that had ideas of collective efforts, including European troops, and we try to mobilize also other actors, just like special forces and helicopter capacities. You know, in that war in the desert, we need helicopters, and it's very expensive, and the French only cannot do that. So you mentioned the force Takuba. Takuba is a very good initiative in both ways. And from the Greek point of view, it's a way to support the collective effort of Europe. And it's also a way to train and to work on interoperability with fighting troops. So the European forces are not very involved. They prepare the war, but they are not very often involved. So it's a way to train them for the actual conflicts, the modern conflicts.
But we had some setbacks over there. While winning the various fights, we had the setback in Mali with a coup d'etat, and then the killing of the president of Chad.
Yes.
Chad, as you said, is extremely important, and it has borders with Libya, and that makes the situation extremely complicated. How is the situation now after these setbacks?
So it's worrying for us. The situation is bad, but not desperate. So in Mali, the issue is that the new government is negotiating with the jihadists. So we must find a position. We are a foreign force and we cannot rule any negotiation, but it must be very controlled.
The plan, as I understand it, is that the European force is now helping the African countries over there. They're going to contain, with the help of the Sahel 5 countries, to contain the jihadists. But at some point, they take over the local forces, they take over from the Europeans, and the Europeans will go back to Europe. When do you see this happening? I mean, are we going to have something like Afghanistan when we left?
No. So President Macron was very clear. The issue is not to withdraw the French forces from the Sahel, but progressively to support the local forces to be able to deal with their own security.
So you have incorporated the lessons learned from Afghanistan and the other...
Yes, and guess what, Alexandros? In the last military operation, 75% of the troops on the ground fighting operations were African and not French. So it's a good sign of this rising.
So since we're running out of time and having a French general with me, I cannot resist to... You know, Greece and France have historically, since now we're celebrating 200 years from the Greek Revolution, and France played a huge part in the Greek Revolution. And then in the Greek state, when I was a kid, we had this saying, Grèce-France alliance, Greece-France an alliance. So can you tell us, just for 1 minute that we have left, a little bit about the Greek-French cooperation?
Yes. So Admiral Alexandros, who have common interest in the Mediterranean, this is an old story, and recent threats in that region made our president to decide to support actively Greece and France cooperation. So I'm not sure it's a key game changer, but it will help Greece to face the new threats. And the military translation of that is more naval exercises. The French Navy is very involved in that area. You know, we have interest with Lebanon and that area. And also Air Force joint trainings. You know that your country is buying the brand new jet, the jet fighter Rafale.
Oh, yes.
This may be a game changer at the technical level. And you mentioned Takuba force. So this is perhaps the involvement of the...
That will strengthen the cooperation between the two armies. You know, the French have organized the Greek army, and still the orders we give, like Ebros marche, in order to parade, it's coming from the French. Thank you very much. It was extremely interesting, and I'm sure that if we had more time, more things we could say about it. But I think we covered the topic in 15 minutes. Thank you very much, Olivier.
Thank you, Alexandros.